from the studio in Nitro, West Virginia. This is Unreasonable Doubt. It's a podcast about West Virginia University basketball. I'm Josh Witt, and think of the things that you hate. Waiting in line at the DMV. You're running late for an appointment, and the thing goes down at the railroad crossing. You're stuck at the train tracks. Anything involving waiting as I get older. And right up there is watching a large WVU basketball lead dwindle. It's the worst. I mean, it is not the worst. In sports terms, it's one of the worst things. Is that lead 22? Now it's 16. Now it's 9. Oh, no, it's 3. And it made me look back. West Virginia won. West Virginia won their 10th Big 12 game, and they're going to the NCAA tournament. I had to look back at West Virginia's 10 wins. Number one, they had the lead at halftime in all 10 wins. And 5 of those games, West Virginia outscored their opponent in the second half. None of them by a lot, but it did happen. And then the other 5 wins, they got outscored by their opponent in the second half. Before today, the worst was the Kansas game, where West Virginia was up 13 after one half, held on to win by 1. But the circumstances of that is you're at Allen Fieldhouse. West Virginia's never won there before. It's kind of an expectation in Lawrence, Kansas, that a lead is not safe if you're not Kansas. So totally get that. Today, on Senior Day, a Central Florida team that was disinterested in defense in the first half, that team outscored West Virginia by 15 points in the second half, again cutting the lead to 3. But West Virginia wins because they had a 22-point lead at halftime, and they hold on to win by 7. And they only win this game because of key offensive rebounds late off of missed free throws, where, as a pattern this season, West Virginia in the bonus, guys outside of Joe and Javon Small, and JP makes 5 threes, barely grazes the rim. But Amani gets a key offensive rebound. Toby Okani gets a key offensive rebound. And that saved West Virginia in the season finale. Because without those rebounds, and even some key rebounds in the first half that led to 3-pointers, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And this is a day of joy for this program and this team, because they win 10 Big 12 games. They bump the schedule up to 20 conference games, and West Virginia wins half of them, which is amazing. And, I mean, I joked on the internet about needing to schedule a cardiologist appointment. I don't think you should watch West Virginia basketball every time they play. If you have the availability to do that, that's what I do. I don't miss unless it's something really important. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. What I would say today is that if you fell asleep and you woke up 2.5 hours later, you oh my goodness, I fell asleep right around 5 p.m. I woke up around 7:30, and you check the box score, that's probably the best way you could have consumed this game. Because again, as great as that first half was, that second half was stomach in knots, like 1,000-yard stare as I'm watching the TV. But if you just see the box score after the fact, you don't even see the first half, second half. You just see the final score, and you go through the individual details and the team stats. You'd say, let's say you didn't even see the score. You just went through the individual stats and the team stats. outside of the final score, you'd say, well, that's a West Virginia win. It has all the things you'd want. Javon went for 25 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. Amani, stop me if you've heard this one. I think the best version of this team is when Amani is the number 2 scorer. Amani was the second leading scorer in this game, 4th double-double of the season, one of those key offensive rebounds. JP made 5 threes, including clutch threes, as West Virginia's holding on late in the second half. Toby Okani filled the stat sheet. He almost had a double-double. West Virginia out-rebounded Central Florida. That's always a positive thing for this team. Rare, but positive. They also got more offensive rebounds than that Central Florida team. And Central Florida and the Big 12's leading scorer was 1 of 10 from the field. You look at all those stats and you say, that's a win. But if you watched the game, if you didn't take a 2.5-hour nap between 5 and 7:30 and you consumed the game, you saw an easy breezy first half where West Virginia got to 47 and they could have got to 55. Like, they missed some open shots. I mean, Amani one time, 3 Mississippis. It was like, nobody's coming to guard me, and he missed that 3. Easy breezy first half, stomach-wrenching, turnover-filled, missed shots, lower energy on both sides of the court. Central Florida, they're making all the shots, all the bounces seem to be finishing with the ball going in the basket. They got a 7'2" guy out there making threes. All that happens in the second half, and you get clutch offensive rebounds. All that being said, the goal is to finish with more points than the other team, and West Virginia had 7 more points than Central Florida. And with this win and going 500 in the Big 12, which is probably not the best conference in the country this season, but they're top 2 or 3, 500 record with the wins that they have, that's an NCAA tournament. That's worthy of a bid. And here's what this team accomplished in 31 games. They win 19 of them. They get 10 conference wins. They're going to be the 8th seed. So there's 16 teams in the conference. If you're in the top 8, you're in the top half of the conference. So West Virginia finishes top half of the Big 12, first round bye in the Big 12 tournament. They were picked 13th in the preseason poll. This team only had 2 losing streaks all season. They happened both in Big 12 play, but only 2 losing streaks. They made the AP Top 25 a couple of weeks, 4 Big 12 road wins, including 1 over a team who was interim head coached by your interim head coach last season at Josh Eilert. You got a guy in the discussion for Big 12 Player of the Year. At one point of this season, National Player of the Year. You have a freshman who will most likely lead the Big 12 and made 3-pointers for the season. And you did all this with the starting 5 that consisted of 2 sophomores and a true freshman. You did this with a team that is going to end up a sub-100 ranked offense in Ken Pomeroy's computer. This team did this with Jaden Stone, who averaged over 20 a game last year, never stepping foot on the court. And they did all this with Tucker DeVries missing the last 23 games of the season. With all of that happening, this team is NCAA tournament bound. And I think that the West Virginia Mountaineers in the 2024-2025 season exceeded everyone's expectations. Shout out to Andrew Corbett at 24/7 Sports. His preseason prediction of West Virginia's record was exactly right. But if you truth serum Andrew, he made that prediction with Tucker DeVries playing 31 games. So even he undershot it for this team. I predicted positively and optimistically 17 wins. And they got one more win in the non-conference schedule than I thought, and they got one more win in the Big 12 schedule. I was predicting 9 wins of 9 wins seems like a lot for this team. And this team exceeded that. They exceeded expectations. You can watch, you can pick a half during the Big 12 schedule. You can pick a bad half. You can pick the first half at Kansas State. You can pick the second half today. You can pick some spots, watch those 20 minutes and say, there's no way that team exceeded expectations for the year. But you could also watch the first half of this game. You could watch the entirety of the Iowa State game. You can watch the first half versus Kansas. Watch that whole game too. Watch the 3 games in the Bahamas, and you'd say that's for sure a team that exceeded expectations. The secret scrimmage kind of told the story, and you can't say that happened, but it did happen against what's probably not going to be an NCAA tournament team in Wake Forest. But the mumbles that you heard from the preseason game was fell behind early, made a run late, won the game comfortably. And that feels right. Not in that order sometimes. Today it was built the lead, held on. But I think everything about this season was in the secret scrimmage, which is interesting because it's supposed to be a secret. But that foretold the season that this team, Wake Forest, NIT team, or whatever that new tournament is, not a slouch team, and West Virginia still not knowing what it was. And the thing about Darren DeVries in his first season, he's not known for his defense. Every team, all 6 seasons at Drake, his teams were very good shooting teams. He comes to West Virginia, and barring an offensive flood in their remaining games, he's going to finish this season with the worst shooting numbers for his team as a head coach. Now, is that the difference between jumping from the Missouri Valley Conference to the Big 12? You could argue that. I would put a positive spin on that, in that those numbers are only going to get better. And those numbers are with a guy who you're leaning on in Javon Small. I think that's going to improve in the future. I think I'd be shocked if season 2 for Darren DeVries' offense is going to be worse than season 1, with a full off season to recruit from the portal and to have, knocking on wood, the staff that he has in to recruit and bring in guys. This was a remarkable season. And I just want to congratulate the guys and the coaching staff on what they've accomplished in year 1 with an entire new roster. This is not Big Blue. Kentucky had a brand new roster and a new coach. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. That is the exception to the rule. People can tell you, well, it's NIL era, it's transfer portal era. You can flip it around. Yeah, but there's flipping around 80% of your points, and there's flipping around 100% of your roster production. And that's what Darren DeVries did this season. And that is the exception to the rule. And they should be commended for the season they just put together. Unreasonable Doubt is under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Go to smokingmusket.com. Read posts about WVU sports, daily throwdown. Check that out. Go to the Discord. We're talking about WVU sports and other stuff on the Smoking Musket Discord. Link for that is in the show notes. Listen to West by Pod, the WVU football podcast under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Do all that stuff. Smoking Musket. Update on the ladies' side. They're already in Kansas City for the women's Big 12 tournament. They got a double bye. They beat Kansas State for the second time on Friday. Semifinals face TCU again, and TCU is just better. But West Virginia gave a game and ended up losing by 6, I believe, to TCU. So great season for the WVU women's team. They're not going to host in the NCAA tournament, but JJ is still hot. Had a great game against Kansas State. So did Jordan. They're at the top of their game at the right time of the season. Can't wait to see who they'll be matched up against. And I think JJ Quinterly, I want them, and I think she can do it, can get this team to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. I see a Sweet 16 in the WVU women's team's future because they have JJ Quinterly and how well she's playing right now and getting out of conference. And I mean, you watched that Iowa game last year. Iowa wanted no part of West Virginia, and West Virginia almost went to Iowa City and beat Caitlin Clark in that team. Sketchy stuff in the fourth quarter of that game from the folks in stripes. On the men's side, barring a Josh Eilert miracle win over BYU in Provo tonight, they're down currently in the second half. West Virginia will face the winner of TCU and Colorado on Wednesday on an ESPN channel. Not sure which one. It could be ESPN Plus. It could be ESPN Ocho. Soon as that comes out, we'll know. TCU and Colorado played today in Boulder, and Colorado beat the Horned Frogs by 20. TCU beat the Buffaloes by 11 on the Frog Court earlier in the season. So it's the rubber match between the Buffaloes and the Horned Frogs. I think that's a good matchup either way for West Virginia. They split with TCU. They went to Colorado and beat Colorado. And just getting that extra day of rest, that is important. And is West Virginia going to go to Kansas City and win the Big 12 tournament? Most likely not. Will they win a game in the Big 12 tournament? I think they've got a good shot. Will they win 2 games? Well, the winner of West Virginia's game is going to play Houston, and that's a problem, obviously. But the good thing about winning today against Central Florida and having 10 conference wins is that if you lose to TCU, that's not I'm air quoting this, bad loss. And it actually gives a team who's played with an 8-man rotation and Javon Smalls played crazy minutes, it gives them even more rest going into the NCAA tournament. Is there a chance this team plays in Dayton? I wouldn't rule it out. Stranger things have happened. Let me ask you this, as a WVU fan. Do you, in the history of your memory, have West Virginia seeded better than what was expected or worse than what was expected? Don't fact check that, because I'm guessing the respect of a Hall of Fame coach and Bob Huggins, West Virginia did get better seeds than maybe they were expected. So don't quote me on that, but just think of WVU mind state. Is the man on our side, or is the man out to get us? And if you look at it through that lens, then West Virginia could end up in Dayton with a loss in the second round of the Big 12 tournament. I don't think that's going to affect their seeding. Then it becomes, right now in the bracket matrix, West Virginia is a 10 seed. And that is where I'd like West Virginia to land. The 8-9, if they're a 9 seed, then they play the 8 seed, and the winner plays the 1 seed, and the 1 seeds this year include Houston, include Duke, include Auburn, most likely, another SEC team. Not as manageable as a 2 seed. And there's some tough 2 seeds out there, I'm sure. You just want to be in that other side of the bracket. And so if that's a 10, so be it. I'm doing this based on memory. The Beeline's Elite 8 run, that team was a 10 seed. So that's what I'm going by here. But we'll get to that in due time. The key point is West Virginia's name is going to be called on Selection Sunday. And that's a great feeling. And then, and spoiler alert, the folks, and I don't want to blame the folks at TCU, but the folks that brought you the Frog Court, and the Frog Court is in the Big 12, so that's why I'm blaming them. The court at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, it's got frog skin vibes. They've taken 12, the Roman numeral 12, XII, and just done that all over the court in like a gray tone. It might give people headaches. It is not visually, it definitely stands out. It's not like somebody spilled a bucket of gold paint on the Oregon court. It's just not great. Wood is good. You know, you know how wood looks? That's a nice look on a basketball court. They're not going with the wood look. They're going with the gimmicky, I think this might be a brain teaser, like that kind of court. So just be forewarned. The court, it's not TCU's fault, but they do have a dumb court too. So that's where the focus goes to. Like, who did this? Who's responsible for the Big 12 tournament court? Let's look at all the courts in the conference. Oh, TCU? Is it you? Guilt by association. Anyways, ESPN family of networks, we'll know which one soon, but West Virginia does not play in the first round. Credit to them. That's it for this episode of Unreasonable Doubt. Listen on all the platforms. Or just pick one: Apple Podcasts, Overcast Podcast, Spotify Podcast, Pocket Cast Podcast, YouTube. Until next time, I'm Josh Witt. WVU for the 2024-2025 season, they have 19 wins and they have 12 losses.